Next on Boy Man King.
But you was in your spaces that you was in until you finally questioned me about the prayer line. And I kind
Yeah.
of want to give it to you and what that space was for you.
Feel free to just block out all the white noise about bravado and this toxic masculinity that we see rolling around here, and just feel free to experience healing within yourself.
What's up, man? It's the main man, Coach Crump, with another great episode of the Boy Man King podcast. And I'm with my co-host, Chizzy. Say what's up to the people, Chizzy.
What's going on, man? What's going on? What's up, people? Happy Sunday to you, man. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. You feel well rested. We're about to pop this up. Just me and you today, kid.
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm excited, man. I'm representing my Made Man T-shirt.
I
I want to bring up a topic. Shout out to Made Man. Males are born, but men are made. Man, I want to talk about something that in the space, Chizzy, that you can relate to. You talk about this so much on the platform that I think is so necessary for every man to hear, but also every woman to hear as well.
Yeah.
How rites of passage are essential to the development of men.
Yeah.
And we talk about in the West where this thing is just not culturally embedded into our family structure. These are things that men just find themselves just navigating life. And I remember, I was searching. And my thing is not only rites of passage for a phase, but rites of passage for phases, right?
Yeah.
Because I had a great father mentor, which I think is part of your phase of developing by having a model or example.
Yeah.
Then I went into the college experience and I was on a basketball team that helped me. And then I got into a fraternity that helped me. But then I still hit a wall as a man where those things still gave me all of these aspects. And I realized the highest rites of passage that every man needs, and I want to speak to this, I want to bring it back to you on this one, is a spiritual rites of passage where you understand and prioritize and apply the practicality, the necessity, the day-to-day embodiment of your spirituality and how you play that out, principle based to how you deal with yourself and how you deal with others day to day as a man.
I like where this conversation is getting into. I like it.
Yeah. So talk about how so many men are just flustering and frustrated and angry and bitter and tired and lonely and exhausted because we haven't had that clear divine awakening as a man of who I am in my faith to accept all the things that are around me and to navigate it in a very healthy way, man. Talk about some of your recent growth in that space as well.
Yeah, I reflect on the difference between a belief and a relationship. So I'm gonna define it for you real quick. Belief, obviously God, belief, spirituality. We like to throw these terms of being spiritual versus religious nowadays. But there's a distinct difference between spirituality and relationship, or religion and relationship. So what relationship does, to answer your question, relationship gives you foundational aspects of your belief system that allow you to pull from in times of trouble. So, for instance, as a man, as you're navigating this man's space, if you when you find yourself in certain situations, relationship means you can draw from some of the skills. You can draw from a relationship you have with your maker, with Christ, with God, that allows you to navigate certain spaces that religion won't allow you to navigate from a practicality perspective. Relationship encourage you to really, really look within and adopt some of the concepts, some of the values, and some of those key points that you're going to need throughout your journey. So as it relates to a rites of passage, relationship encourages that. Part of a rites of passage is being able to identify along the trajectory of your spiritual journey what you're going to need throughout your time on this earth, whether you're going through certain phases of your life. And I found out with myself, because I grew up My father's a pastor. I grew up in church. I may not necessarily have had the relationship. I may have had the religion, but when it came to certain life choices and choices that I had to make, the relationship that I didn't have prohibited me from transitioning in a way that you know that was healthy for myself. So what we're trying to encourage with a rites of passage, similar to what you're talking to, is having foundational aspects of your spirituality, mentorship, all of these components that you can draw from during crisis times that allow you to make sound decisions that you may not necessarily have if you just had religion or you just had a belief system. It's nothing practical that you could use to answer your question. So I think rites of passage, especially for black men, I mean, we see it often when it comes to antisocial behavior. So when you talk about gang lifestyle, when you talk about anything to do, with that, the adverse effects of certain experiences in your life, rites of passage is something that's practiced in a negative sense. And we can see throughout history, we can see how that plays out in the communities with young men, how the
Yeah,
recruitment
like getting
process,
initiated and all of that.
initiations, and how they indoctrinate them with a certain mindset and a certain ethos that translates into middle school age to high school to now to the adulthood. But that's something that does not necessarily exist on the positive side. And what we need to show
I
that.
push back. I push back and to say that it does exist, but I even think like the indoctrination is not just from a gang perspective, but also from a game perspective. Like
Yeah, yeah,
culturally, we being indoctrinated that we got to be tough and
sure.
we gotta walk we carry a certain way, and we
Carry emotions.
macho,
Yeah.
and we're in competition with each other. But I remember, and I want you to speak to this, when that coming to Christ moment, or that coming to a realization, or coming to just being with yourself, to be honest, to be like, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. And I go to this quote: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And
Hmm.
my biggest thing with men is, if you just help to just get over your pride and ego alone, there's rites of passage things around you, there's men's group around you, there's resources online, but you're not searching and seeking it out, because you're imposturing in a space where you're
Yeah,
trying to pretend like you got it all together, that you're okay. It's okay not to be okay,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
The challenge is not getting the help. So I remember when my moment, and I want you to talk to your moment, because I know you have talked about it before, but I think
Hmm.
it can't be highlighted enough, because I was in my late 20s, you was in your early 40s. But I
Hmm.
think it's important because I even evolved as I got older, and needing certain spaces with men to help me navigate the ages and stages that I was in. But I was married, I had children, I was quote unquote okay successfully in my career as a young professional in the education system. I'm active in the community, and Chizzy, I was losing my mind.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
losing my mind. It was 2009. And I remember Pastor Castro had asked me, how's my prayer life? I was like, I pray. I eat, pray over my food. I pray for, how does your prayer life? Do you have like an actual relationship with God, and how you commune and walk and talk with you, just you and him? Because I'm doing the right things. I'm going to church. I'm coming home. I'm going to work. Like, whatever narrative y'all pitch me to be a good guy, I was shooting my shot to facilitate that with
Yeah.
my wife and children. And my marriage was empty, my bank account was empty. Like, I was just like, yo, I was empty. And I
Mhm.
remember that kind of planted the seed, but I still was lost in translation. And then I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. It was 2011, fast forward, and that's what I met ET when he came to Bermuda to be a guest speaker. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want a photo, I don't want a picture, I don't want an autograph. I want somebody to
Relationship.
help me understand how to get through this season that I'm in, because I've been struggling now for a couple of years, and I'm just looking like everything's okay, but everything's not okay. Like, I'm very disconnected right now.
Yeah.
And that's when he gave me that line. That's when I sat on there and just listened to them for months, 5 days a week. I had a couple of lunches, just gave me a book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, gave me some more resources and books, gave me a community of men, that gave me a safe space to listen and to express and to be heard and to be felt and to navigate and to cry and to and to just figure out, okay, where do I start? Like
Right.
what's point A? And I bring this to full circle to give it to you now because that was the start of me having this life that I have now over 15 years later was really based on the fact that I stopped posturing, I stopped posing as if I have it all together because I have these titles, or I should know by this time, or I should know because I'm married, or I should know because I don't know. I don't know. I'm shooting my shot, but I feel like I'm shooting in the dark and nothing's hitting, and I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I'm running out of just gumption. You know what I mean? I'm running out of grind to keep this up. And that really was the pivotal moment in my life to help me navigate life as a man who still has to navigate all of these responsibilities as I navigate myself. And I share that because you was in my life at this time as a friend, and
Yeah.
then you became a colleague the next year
Hmm.
with Team Street Safe in 2012, and you always would see me with my AirPods in the morning. You will always know that I was on the prayer line,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you was in your spaces that you was in until you finally questioned me about the prayer line. And I
Yeah.
kind of want to give it to you and what that space was for you.
Yeah. I mean, I, it's funny because I was watching an older episode of one of our previous clips the other day, and I said something like, I could have been doing this all this time. Like when you grow up in a religious community, when you grow up, in that space, you're afforded certain benefits in terms of being exposed to certain things. But it's only when you start to take my personal relationship with
Mm,
God and Christ serious, and you put
come on.
things in place to really help you throughout this journey, that you realize that the religion and the belief is one thing, but as I
Hmm.
said, the relationship trumps all of that, because it's a daily something. It's a daily sustenance that you can get from the relationship. And for me, the realization was, I was in Atlanta taking my son to school, and of course I've shared this openly and on the pod before, and some stuff was going on with my ex-wife and his mom, and I lost control. I lost control of me. I became. My kids had never seen me in this space before. They had never seen that daddy lose it. Like, there was no physical violence. There was attempts. There was aggression. I was completely upset, and at that particular point, I was like, I can no longer do this. I can no
Mm,
longer do this. And of course, in Atlanta, you're in Atlanta. I reached out to my boy, and that's when I finally got introduced to the prayer line. Because I'm like,
mm.
and so, you know, if you've had that experience of being held accountable by men who want to see you win, who
Come
genuinely
on.
care for you, who want to see you, transition past where you are to where they know you can be, similar to what we
Come
do in
on.
Boy Man King. I was a little boy being introduced as a 40-year-old man being introduced to the prayer line, while my friend that I've known for almost 20 years, over 20 years, that I've seen when we work professionally with the headphones. I'm like, what is this guy listening to? But it's only when I had that personal
Mm.
experience and I got on the prayer line, and brothers were like, bro, you ain't the victim. Like, what are you doing out there in these streets? And
Yeah.
that's the necessary part for me. Like, you kind of have to be slapped in your mouth a few times by people who genuinely care about you, for you to really
Mm.
have the realization to know that, man, I had no idea, as astute as I was in the community,
Mm.
all the wonderful things we did back home in Bermuda, Team Street Safe, working with young people and gang intervention. It paled in comparison to this life journey of being a father, being at that time being an ex-husband, trying to transition post divorce. All of these things
Mm.
came to a halt, and it was only during that time at the prayer line where I really started to set to myself and take my relationship, and that rites of passage that we're talking about became instrumental for me, something that you yearn for every day. So it's amazing how, when you get exposed to certain things, and
Mm.
when you genuinely feel like these guys really actually want to see you win, it's something that your spirit yearns for.
Come on.
Like you said, when I may misrepresent the quote, when when the student when there's a teacher needed, the teacher will come. And I may be messing up the
When
phrase
the
that
when
you
the
use.
when the student is ready, the
When
teacher
the
will
student is ready,
appear.
the teacher will present it. So, and that's what I was presented with. People like
Mm.
yourself, people like BK, other people that we've had on the court that's been part of that whole experience who continue to just pour into men and brothers. And it actually, you and I had this long conversation on the drive up to the retreat,
Yeah,
which led us here to Boy Man King. What? It was 4 years later.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of where it started, and I kind of want to speak to that because I had to see your spirit and your heart to trust the platform that you was in a good space. Because yes, you're talented and you're smart and you got swag and you're doing your thing, but it was like, what was your heart posture? What was your spirit maturity wise? Because we have an obligation and a duty to make sure that we just come on here and create content, but that we have a covenant as men to honor and represent men. I was having a conversation with a gentleman. Shout out to the Linux in Canada, young mate. He was
Yeah,
like, man, he was like, why are you so serious, or why you guys are not so, button up? I was like, listen, this is not a game. This is not for likes and follows and kicks and giggles. We're seriously come before the Lord. We seriously ask God to use us, like we say 1 or 1 million. We're really out here to help these men get the resource that they need. And it does our heart so good. You gotta get caught up on what other people are saying and what other people doing. We got over 1,000 subscribers
hmm
from all over America, in Bermuda, other parts of the country that I can't remember all the people that were impacted online from having conversations with men about men and even women now to understand, to better position, to better come together, not just men in themselves, but men in relationship with their women and children. But it's essential. What I
yeah,
want to have this episode get is that the necessity of a rites of passage, the necessity to humble yourself to a process, to humble yourself to a group of men, to humble yourself to be at the feet and ask questions, not to critique or to break down or to debate, but to really have a better understanding of life and self, to make sure that you show up as your best version. And one of the things that is reflected in both of our lives is that it's continuous.
yeah,
What I wanted to highlight is not only necessity that you engage in some form, but also that you keep showing up in
hmm
some form. Like you said, like once you've been exposed,
yeah,
because I think, we try to novocaine it through drugs, smoking, drinking,
yeah,
womanizing,
yeah,
being working, video games. You try, and a man who's feeling me, who's like, man, am I ready? For the man who's saying, do I need to? Is that for a fact that you go to the bar, you go to the dro, you go to the video game, and you go to the females, and it still doesn't fulfill that void. Like you still got that void, you still got those issues, you still got those demons that you are struggling with how to manage, and you novocaine it by
hmm
trying to make it go away temporarily by working out, by going to work, by drinking, smoking, and hanging out with those who do. And it's like it's important to accept the reality that we're all human and we all are battling this flesh and we all need help, including every man, no matter what age or stage that you're in. And if you haven't went through a process, reach out. There's multiple resources that's out now. I mean, now that we've gotten into space over the past 4 years, Chizzy, it's
yeah,
platforms that have blossomed all over the place to give resources for men. But get yourself connected to a group of men and also keep in communion and conversations with those men as you try to navigate these landmines of all these roles and responsibilities in your manhood.
let's debunk a lot of things that the community and the world will have you believe, like that manliness is bravado and pride and having all the answers and not showing and demonstrating vulnerability and not being able to say, look, I need help. Let's debunk
Mm,
that right now, because any only a fool realizes Only a fool knows thinks that he knows it all. It's a famous saying. To you recognizing that you know nothing is the best attribute of any man, really and truly. And I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but I want to encourage our viewers and our listeners and men out there who feel like they don't have a voice, who feel like that they cannot speak about the things that they're challenged with. It is okay. You have Boy Man King. There are so many platforms out there that can encourage you, that will listen to you, that will provide resources for you, that will be a support. When I'm talking about a one-off, and this rites of
Mm,
passage thing that we're talking about with with ourselves and
mm,
with the prayer line, these are consistent efforts that you have to make because stuff comes up in your life that you require support with. You're never gonna have
mm,
all the answers at different phases. We were talking offline about dealing with loss and dealing with shifts in
mm,
our family structure and dealing with different changes. Life has a way of encouraging you to really evaluate what you need during the phase that you're in this life. And if you stand on this perspective that where you are is all you're going to need, and the place that you're going, you won't require further resources, you're fooling yourself. So I'm going to debunk
mm.
every man into thinking that you have to have all the answers. You don't have to have all the answers.
Good.
The key is to recognize the people that you can put into your circle that will help you to gain the knowledge and understanding and give you the spiritual guidance that you need to deal with whatever life throws at you. Because trust and believe, as we all know, if you talk to any man can tell you that where they are and where they were are two different places, and where they're going may be somewhere different. And
Mm,
so to assume that you have all the equipment and all the tools that you have for the phase that you're in now, yes, you may have what you need today, but tomorrow and in the future, you will need resources. You will need support. And we're here to offer that to anybody that needs it. Because even though we're sitting here talking, this is cathartic for us as well. We don't get on her and say we have all the answers and we're gonna give you all the
mm.
answers. We'll figure it out. This is therapeutic. It's important that we as brothers just come together on a regular basis just to have conversations about every and anything. We do this all the time. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we want to encourage men especially. Feel free to just block out all the white noise about bravado and this toxic masculinity that we see rolling around here, and just feel free to experience healing within yourself.
I
Um,
love it. I love it, man. What we're gonna do, we're gonna close out with this, man.
yeah,
Me and Chizzy has both been the benefit of the longest standing men's prayer line in the world, started by Dr. Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher over 25 years ago, still stands today, five days a
yeah,
week, a call available every morning across the world. If you need support, if you need just to find somewhere to start, go to prayerwarriorsglobal.com. Also, you can easily reach out to the Boy Man King platform.
yeah.
We
We're
would
available.
love to hear from you. You can DM us, you can call us, you can text us, you can email us. Man, we don't want to just say like and subscribe to our YouTube page, but send us a message, send us an email, let us know where you are in this
What
space.
you struggling
Um,
with? What you need help with? What
yeah,
content you think we might need to talk about on our platform? Because again, this platform is a representation of all men.
all men, all men, and we're here for you. So we're not here just for me and Chizzy
Not at all.
benefit. We're here for you guys to get the benefit. And I'll leave you with a book resource, and we'll close out. Um, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen is a book that I stand by. Yes, you got the Word of God, so definitely get that in. But I just feel like from a thinking perspective that you would get a healthy thought process around why and how you should be thinking about your circumstances, about your character. And it's very valuable. I read it every year for at least for the past 5 years.
Mhm.
So I don't just read it once. I read it every year, sometimes multiple times. I know one year, I think it was 2 years ago, I read it like 5 or 6 times that year, just to kind of really embed into myself like what's manifesting in front of me is because of my thought process.
Sure,
And
sure.
so I had to really check if I don't like what's manifesting in front of me, I have to check my process. But that's a skill set. The reason why I'm pointing this out, and I had to read this one book multiple times over 5 years is because I had to develop the skill set of developing my thought process. So
Yeah.
we want to continue to encourage you, strengthen you, but know that every man, a rites of passage is necessity. And you may not know where to start. We gave you a resource to make a phone call. We gave you a resource to read a book. And we got video content here on the Boy Man King platform. Listen, and don't be discouraged by where your starting point is and how much you know or don't know, how much you have or don't have. The journey continues. You have to start somewhere. And you start by taking one step at a time and starting where you are. So, on behalf of me and Chizzy and the whole Boy Man King team and our platform, we want to say we're proud of you. We encourage you. You
Push.
got this. You can do this because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I don't know where your teacher is coming from. I don't know where your mentor is coming from. But if you just take the posture to show up as your best self or whatever you have or whatever you know, and humble yourself to be teachable, to ask questions, and to put plans into action, man, you're going to be all right. So we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Boy Man King podcast,
Yes,
where we
sir.
say the journey continues.
Peace.
Thank you.